Both Chelsea and Spurs have to overturn deficits in their Champions League second legs when it comes to the round of 16, playing against Dortmund. Chelsea are at Stamford Bridge, and Tottenham are playing home as well against AC Milan. Both of them 1-0 down after the first leg. We want to talk about both these teams and kind of if they can overcome these sort of hurdles broadly and this game specifically. Let's start with Chelsea, they've only won 2 matches since they came back from the Premier League, from the World Cup, sorry. 2 matches in the last 12, and their XG in the last 7 matches is 8.42, and they've only scored 2.2 goals. I think even last week with the game with Dortmund, because they had 21 shots in that game, an XG of 2 point something. Actually, in the whole week, in 3 games, they had an XG of 4 or 5 goals and couldn't score a single goal. So what I'm alluding to here, is there any way that, obviously there's a lot of pressure on Potter, has he been unlucky?
Bad luck. I'm not too sure about that. Because every team will have these periods where they don't play well. And they usually bounce back eventually. The ones full of good players and good coaches, it doesn't last that long. So for a 3 or 4 game period, I think you can be unlucky. I think now we're talking, 15 matches or so. I don't think it's down to bad luck anymore. He needs to find a solution. I think he should probably change formation just to get more bodies into the box. The wing backs are back, Reece James and Ben Chilwell, and I think you have to utilise them. I almost find it odd that he's not used that formation because he used it so often at Brighton. Yes, he played a back 4 as well, but we were used to seeing them line up in a back 3. And I think one of the key areas, or one of the key reasons that he hasn't, is that there are so many wingers in their squad. And it almost points towards, and maybe this is where the bad luck comes in, the recruitment at Chelsea, the aggressive nature that Clearlake Capital and Todd Bowley, the ownership group, went for the January transfer window, has left him with a squad of players that maybe he doesn't necessarily fancy, or just doesn't know how to get the best out of because they aren't players that he was asking for. And he's just working that out as the weeks go by. Actually, I think and it's a strange comparison to make, but Steve Cooper at Nottingham Forest was in a similar position this season. He was given, 25, 26 new players, probably more, and a totally new squad. And it was like, what on earth am I going to do with these? And it took him weeks and weeks and weeks of bad results before he was like, this is pretty much the team that I want to play. And then after that, there's still another 5 or 6 weeks of them being the settled team before they really start playing well together. And maybe that's this period for Chelsea, but I don't think it is because he still hasn't settled on the 11, still hasn't improved performances. There's no one to blame really but you. Your job's to find an answer to that.
But with so many new signings and so many little sort of hand grenades that have been kind of thrown at him throughout his tenure there, that makes it hard to sort of find out what is right for you. Because actually with these players as well, you've got players who are underdeveloped because they're young. That's the whole point of why you've bought them. And you've bought them for generally outrageous sums. So, amortised, I know. But when you do that, that leads to incredibly high expectations. That's probably the difference between Nottingham Forest. Despite spending that much money, they're still, if you finish 16th, that's okay. And Steve Cooper had the credit in the bank of the previous season where he'd worked miracles.
And he almost got sacked.
And he still almost got sacked. Yeah, and he's still like 2 wins away.
Yeah.
So for Graham Potter, that's what I find is so fascinating. He's actually come into a job where I think he thought they were probably going to go, okay, yeah, we've got these new owners, but we're going to get to the summer and we're going to maybe figure this out. We might bring in 1 or 2, but generally you're a coach who's good at making players better. Let's see what we've got here. Who do we want to keep hold of? And then we move from there. Instead, they've just been throwing names at him, and he seems overwhelmed, doesn't he?
I feel for him because I think it's a really tough job. But like Hugh says, he's got to sort it out. At some point, the results can't continue for as long as they have been at the moment.
Can anyone fix it as well? Like, does anyone come in and not look like a bit of a chump like everyone seems to think that he is, which I don't, by the way.
I don't think he's a chump. I think he's a great manager, but I don't think this is the right club for him now. When he's gone in there, I think the job that he took in August is very different to what the job is now. I think they've looked at Potter as a moulder of men and a moulder of young players, and that's exactly what he did at Brighton. But the trouble is at Chelsea, you've got those young players there that they bought, but you've still got 15, 20 other players that you've got to manage and keep happy as well. But experienced pros, big names, big characters in the dressing room. It's not easy to amalgamate all that at the exact same time. So whilst I do feel for Potter, the only criticism I would have of him is that the things Chelsea are getting criticised for now in terms of the XG and their creating chances, but they're not scoring. exactly the same thing that everyone used to say about his Brighton side.
Yeah.
Potter had the credit at Brighton. He doesn't have the credit at Chelsea. And at the moment, to me, he looks a bit lost. He looks a little bit drained. This Champions League tie has come at the wrong time for him, because if they go out, the pressure just comes on him. It's too much, isn't it?
It's close to being untenable for Potter. It's very close to being untenable for him, because essentially, as a leader, if everyone's lost belief in you, you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, the untenable thing I think is interesting, because whoever comes in, nothing changes. And I said this in a video on my channel, and someone said, but if we get rid of him, we can get the new guy in now, and he can get settled with the squad. I go, well, hang on, that's what you're doing. Isn't that kind of what you're doing with this guy?
He is the new
guy. I think there's a lot of stuff where you go, say you look lost, you look drained. You do when you're not winning games, and it's in the middle of winter, and you haven't been able to get a bit of a tan somewhere else. These are all things that he's having to deal with right now. So I'm desperate for him to sort of turn it around a little bit, because I actually like. People think it's a lack of personality. I think he's pretty classy.
He's clever. He's a clever guy.
And I think he's trying to kind of stop the reverberations of it as much as possible. But it's just such a loud football club, and that's very, very difficult for him. I agree with you, though. Even with everything I'm saying and that ability to be reasonable, the sort of cacophony of it is so loud. If he can't beat Leeds, and he can't be. This has been recorded before the Leeds game, but if he can't win these next two games, you just sort of. There's just too much going on, isn't there?
They couldn't beat Southampton, the worst team in the league, a couple of weeks ago. They couldn't beat them at home.
I think that felt like the moment for a lot of people, because they were sort of bottom of the league, and they are creating chances. They do have talent in their team. He needs to find an answer pretty quickly, and if he sees it as an opportunity and he can get and create the same amount of chances, and someone could put it in the back of the net, then again, another thing that he struggled with. I think if he had Brozier, I think he'd be in a much better position as well, because I think to have someone who, and I'm not saying he's a world-class striker, but someone who is just an out-and-out striker who kind of be in those right areas, I think would have made a bit of a difference for them, which is hilarious when you've got 11 forwards. But this Dortmund side is good, but did struggle even at home against them. They seem quite comfortable without the ball under Terzic. In the Champions League, 46% possession, so they're not as bothered about that as they previously have been.
As a club, they're used to kind of taking the mantle of the underdog, and all of their great successes, they've had to prove themselves against a mighty giant, if you like. So I don't think there'll be any discomfort with this position within the club, and I think that's an important thing as well, because Chelsea are very uncomfortable with the position that they're in at this point in time. And the kind of what if, if we lose. Well, the what if we lose and we're Dortmund is nowhere near as extreme as the what if we lose if you're Chelsea. And I think that could play a big factor. 61
tackles as a squad in the final third this season, which is second most in the Bundesliga, second best defence in the league as well, which is obviously their main aim is to not concede in this game. It does feel like it comes down, one, to the first goal, but secondly to the crowd in this one.
And Dortmund will be quite happy to frustrate the crowd. They'll be quite happy for Chelsea to have the ball, with the confidence that the way Chelsea are in front of goal, that they're not going to break them down. And that'll be their game plan. And then if they can maybe nick a goal on the break, Dortmund, that's the tie done, isn't it? So Dortmund will be quite happy to go there and harness that bad atmosphere and make it a tough place for the Chelsea players to play, because there's no doubt at the moment Stamford Bridge is a really tough place for those players to play, and it's a tough place for the manager to be as well. So if Dortmund can keep it tight for the first 20 minutes, it's the perfect. They've got the perfect platform, because they're leading 1-0 from the first leg,
and with quality as well to score goals on the counter attack. We'll get your final answer on if they'll make it through or not, if they can overturn it. Let's talk about Tottenham, who Jekyll and Hyde time and again, woeful against Leicester City, able to beat Manchester City. My friend who's a Tottenham fan said to me, and I was so shocked I haven't fact checked it. He said we're top of the Premier League form table. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. So they're still they are getting results, but we all seem to, and often it is the noise around it. We're still struggling with Tottenham, aren't we?
Yeah.
In terms of, are they good? Are they not good? Have they got, where are they at? This game, not having Bentancur, we thought was going to be a huge loss. Skip came in, played brilliant against Chelsea. Great victory against Chelsea. Against a team they don't beat often. Then the Sheffield United game, I'm just a bit lost with them. Which Tottenham do you expect to turn up for this one?
Tottenham are good.
They are good officially. They're
not,
officially good.
They're not good enough.
Right. Yeah.
And that is why we don't quite understand them at the moment, because we came into the start of the season saying Antonio Conte, can he go and win the title? You know, that was the talk about Tottenham at the start of the year. Can they credibly have a Premier League title challenge?
Won the transfer window.
Yeah, exactly. And now, it very quickly became about the top four. And now we just see them kind of motoring along as a good team. And they, you know, with the players that they have in their squad, should be able to win enough games. The point is, they aren't good enough for us, you know, in terms of our thinking about what this Tottenham team should have been this season. And ultimately, a team that's in the position that they're in, they're inconsistent. We've seen that. But also with the players that they have, they can win games. And that's what we see week to week, you know. It's just Spursy.
Yeah. So this is kind of a good tie for them, I think, to make their way through, because AC Milan side that has sort of bumps along the road this season. Had a period where they were conceding quite a few goals, sort of 5 goals against Lazio. Lazio 4 goals, Sassuolo 5 goals. But then they've in the last few games have been able to find their way in terms of that defence. Again, they're going to be looking to do the same thing and keep a clean sheet against Tottenham. Will Tottenham be able to sort of break the door down? They've actually got a pretty good record when it comes to overturning deficits. They've been behind a total of 14 times in the Premier League this season, won 14 points from losing positions. So do you see that happening here once again?
Milan, again, a bit like Dortmund, will be happy to say, Spurs, come and have the ball, see if you can break us down. So often second legs are played like that when the English team has to play the home leg second. Spurs have got the players to break it down, but they've struggled in certain games at certain times. But that form table thing is interesting, because while you said that, I was just thinking of some of the games recently. They have won games, and it feels like the Leicester one was an anomaly a little bit. They got absolutely pumped that day, but then they do just have a game chucked in against Sheffield United, and you think, what are Spurs all about? Do they not want to win a trophy? Decent chance of a cup run there, and they chuck it away. Much will depend on Harry Kane. The guy's clinical. If they service him and give him some chances, he'll tuck it away, and they'll win the game. But if Milan can keep it tight and get the Spurs fans frustrated, because I do feel like there's that overarching frustration in the Spurs fan base at the moment. I don't think they're where they thought they were going to be this season. On the face of it, you know, you look at it, being fourth, is it that bad?
Frustration with the ownership, of course, as well, despite spending a lot of money.
Frustrations all over the place. I still look at that Spurs defence and think, you know, Ben Davies is still playing pretty much every week. Lenglet's come in, not been brilliant. Romero's a walking yellow card. Eric Dyer's very up and down. They've got Fraser Forster in goal at the moment as well. You know, I just think Milan will get through. That's my gut feeling is Milan will get through.
So despite these stats, you think it's going to be AC Milan? I think that Tottenham, when called upon, it actually sounds very unlike Tottenham. I think at home in particular, I think you'll get the energy that you need from them, and you've got a star man in Harry Kane to either create or to score himself. And I think Tottenham will be fine. It's Chelsea that I'm struggling with. 11 times they've gone a goal down in a game. It's only 3 games that they've been able to kind of recover points or recover the tie, and it just feels it could be 1 goal and it could click for Chelsea a little bit, and they could kind of get off the floor. But I just can't see it at this moment in time. So I think Chelsea go out. I think their heart's broken, and I think Potter could be going straight after that. And I think Tottenham make it through. You
agree?
Yeah.
Both. Yeah, I agree. Look, if you score once, and Dortmund will be thinking that they haven't scored 2 goals in a game. I can't remember the last time, but they can't get a goal at the moment. If you score, you've got a great chance of going through, and they will go all out to try and kill that atmosphere stone dead at Stamford Bridge. So that could easily happen, but I think the atmosphere will be great at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I think that will lead them to victory.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.